Alright, so Charlotte weekend, Coca-Cola 600, Memorial Day weekend, aka the greatest day in motorsports, with F1, Indycar, and NASCAR. F1 has a Monaco Grand Prix, which it's always lackluster. But then again, the allure of winning the Monaco Grand Prix comes more with tradition and the fact that it's a street course, and street courses are way more technical, even if there's not a lot of passing zones there. Gist of it. Indy 500 was pretty great. They even red flagged the race for it to end on the green, or at least they attended to, because the race ended up finishing under caution anyways. But it was great compared to what happened in 2020. A great thing that IndyCar did, because they don't have this green-white checker rule. And now we have NASCAR, which was the Coca-Cola 600, and that was quite a race. So we're gonna get right into it. But first, we gotta talk about the other two races that happened before it. So anyways, for the Truck Series race, the big storyline leading to this race was another pole by Ty Majeski. He's looked really fast this season. Right now, he is solidly putting himself like above the cut line. Even if he hasn't won a lot of races, he's had several good runs, several top fives, and there's an argument to be had that Ty Majeski has been the second best ThorSport truck this season. As a matter of fact, when I'm looking at the stats, yeah, he is. He is the second best ThorSport guy, right behind Ben Rhodes. And his season so far, he's reminding me of like 2002 Jason Leffler, where he scored a bunch of poles. No race wins, but he got a ton of top fives and good results. Yeah. So far, it's too early to tell in the season, but right now, Ty Majeski's season so far is looking a lot like 2002 Jason Leffler. So anyways, stage one was very entertaining, and this was a theme for the entire weekend, not just trucks and Xfinity, but also mostly the Cup race. But the stage one was really entertaining. Of course, it ended up being like a two-car breakaway between Majeski and Saint Smith, who eventually ended up winning the stage. But Kyle Busch, Carson Hocevar, Ryan Preece, Ross Chastain, they got a lot of the action. They got in on the action as well in spurts, if you could say. There was lots of passing, especially early on. There were like 2 or 3 lead changes in the first 5 laps. The big storyline in stage one was Hailie Deegan struggling. She started on the back due to a hub failure in qualifying, I think it was. She got lapped down early on, and I thought she was gonna try and make some ground and try to settle in around the 20th, 25th spot. No. She got lapped down early on. She got trap lapped down. She was battling for 31st with, I believe it was Max Gutierrez. Yeah, Mexican driver who was making his NASCAR debut. And speaking of the Mexican drivers, I gotta say, they really showed up in that Sunday. Checo winning the Monaco Grand Prix, and Pato O'Ward in the Indy 500, he almost won it. And Daniel Suarez, he got a great race in the Coca-Cola 600, like one of the best races of his career to date, I gotta say. So then again, back to the truck race. Hailie got the lucky dog in stage one, but overall she didn't do much in this race, I gotta say. Which, once again, that was the first truly disappointing race for Hailie Deegan, in my opinion, because she doesn't have the excuse this time of she had bad luck. She had bad luck. No, she didn't have bad luck. She just straight up sucked today. So once again, Stuart Friesen, Matt Crafton, and Kyle Busch had issues on pit road, and this was going to be unfortunately a constant with Kyle Busch for throughout this race. And this was an unusually quiet night too for like Kyle Busch standards. I know he was out there leading early on. I think he led the first lap or the second lap, but I know he led, or at the very least he was up there, but racing for the lead like in the first 2 to 3 laps, and then he fell out of the top 5 and was just like a 10th place car at best, and his pit crew didn't do him any favors either. There were like 3 pit stops throughout the race because this was a short race. There were 3 pit stops, 2 under caution for the stages, and 1 during green flag pit stops. That was during stage 3. Kyle Busch's pit crew just straight up sucked. He gave me flashes of Bubba Wallace's 2311 pit crewing in the Cup Series. I was wondering if Kyle Busch had brought down some of those guys over the 2311. I was just joking there that because his pit crew was just so bad. And mind you, this is for his own team. He is the boss man of that team. So I believe a few of those crew members are going to be in really hot water after this race. So not so fun stuff for Rowdy. Stage 2 was kind of more of the same. Saint Smith led Majeski. Ty Majeski breathing down his neck. But then a caution comes out towards the end of stage 2, and it ends on a sprint to the finish. On pit road, Ryan Preece jumps into the picture with Christian Eckes in tow. Saint Smith and Ty Majeski. This is due to Saint Smith and Ty Majeski having slow stops. Like I said, Kyle Busch, another slow pit stop. I believe that one dropped him out of the top 10. I don't know. But up front, Ben Rhodes and Derek Krause, they stayed out. They restart up front. And then on the restart, Krause doesn't get going. A stack up happens. Another caution comes out. And because of that quick caution, Ben Rhodes ends up winning. His gamble ended up working out because, as you know, a tire wear, especially as we saw in the Cup race, tires matter a lot in Charlotte. So if the race ended up on, if that sprint to the finish ended up being a thing, like if the race if that stage ended under green, I really doubt Ben Rhodes would have even finished in the top 10. So that was a very dangerous gamble, but it really paid off for Ben Rhodes. That caution really saved him, and he got him a stage win. So in stage 3, Ryan Preece and Christian Eckes, they restart up front, but then John Hunter Nemechek and Carson Hocevar, they also joined them, so it's now a 4-car battle for the lead. Majeski, Ty Majeski, Saint Smith, they drop back in the top 10 because they no longer have the track position. And Hocevar eventually gets the lead, and he starts pulling away. It is pretty clear that Carson Hocevar had the best long-run truck in the late stages of the race. He got built up a 6-second lead by the time green flag pit stops happened. And while all of this is happening, Kyle Busch is just barely hanging on to a top 10. Sure, that green flag pit stop, and you know, once again, like I said, his slow pit crew, he'd cycle it back outside the top 10 during green flag pit stops. But he made a really great charge to 7th in the final few laps. And then again, I know I may be talking about Kyle Busch a lot in the truck race, when in fact it's not a big deal. You know, what matters is what he does in the Cup race, because that's a series where he's actually fighting for the championship, you know. But I mean, it's just we're just grown so used to seeing Kyle Busch competing for the win when he occasionally drops down to like his 5 truck starts a year. People usually think that Kyle Busch is gonna win, like at the very least he's gonna win 3 of those 5 races, if not all 5 of them. So for him to not leave any laps or to even finish outside of the to even finish outside the top 10. Hell, for him to finish outside the top 5, that's considered like a disappointing race for Kyle Busch. It's just so crazy the standards we have for him in the truck series. But anyways, while all this is happening, it seems that Carson Hocevar is on smooth sailing to the win. But then, in typical fashion, because nothing can come easy for Carson Hocevar, a caution comes out, because of course it does. Overtime happens, and with the truck series, it's gonna get wild in overtime. Hocevar tries to pull away, but Ryan Preece, he restarts to his outside. He gets a great restart. Ross Chastain, another guy who we haven't talked about much. He was running like usually top 5, top 10, but he really showed out, especially in this final stage. He really came alive. He gave a push to Carson Hocevar because, Ross Chastain, he is the ultimate teammate after all. He tried to help Hocevar, and he actually did. He actually did as best as they could. Coming off turn 2, Hocevar collides with Ryan Preece. Hocevar puts him in the wall, but they both stay side by side. Then in turns 3 and 4, Hocevar drives into the corner deep. Once again, they both collide, and this time Preece hits the wall hard, and Hocevar spins, and yeah, this is just, this was just heartbreaking. And yes, when you look at this objectively, yes, Carson Hocevar, he threw this race away. But you just can't, when it comes to guys like him, you just can't help but feel so bad for him, because he really shows that, because this moves for the win that he does. I mean, it's fighting for his first career win, and he's had a win. He has deserved to win a race for like so long, but you know what they say. Deserves got nothing to do with the outcome. Deserves got nothing to do with the result. Ryan Preece, he scored as the leader when the caution comes out, but he has to pit because he has damage, and the lead goes to Chastain, who he got been battling an ill handling car all race long, and in double overtime it just got worse, because Chastain, he was just all over the place. That 41 truck was just all over the place. He really had an ill handling truck, and this allowed Christian Eckes and John Hunter Nemechek to make it 3 wide on the last lap. It seemed like Nemechek was gonna pull away and he was gonna complete the move on the backstretch, but then Grant Enfinger made an amazing push on Ross Chastain, since they're both Chevy teammates. And I know, like, Nice Motorsports, they don't have that alliance with GMS Racing anymore, but I mean, they're still a Chevy teammate. Like, Enfinger and Chastain, they were still Chevy teammates in that race. Enfinger gave Chastain the push, and that was more than enough for Chastain to hold off John Hunter Nemechek for the win. And as a bonus, Enfinger finished second, so it was a Chevrolet 1-2. It was great teamwork there between a Nice truck and a GMS truck. And speaking of Nice Motorsports, it's just so amazing how much Ross Chastain elevates this Nice Motorsports team, because if you remember, back in 2019, and sure, this was back when they still had the alliance with GMS, and Chastain, he dropped down to the truck series. He won 3 races. Could have been 4 if it wasn't for that disqualification at Iowa. So 3 races. He ended up winning 3 races. He made it to a championship 4. And then in 2020, Chastain moves up to Xfinity, goes back to the Xfinity series, and GMS no longer has the alliance with Nice. So that's why Nice Motorsports struggle. Now, most people attributed the struggles to the fact that they didn't have Nice. They didn't have the GMS racing support anymore. They didn't have that alliance anymore. But even then, when you look at Chastain making like his part-time starts in the truck series every now and then, he usually brings the car in the top 10, and if he doesn't bring it, he usually runs in the top 10 with that car for most of the race. Like, it's just amazing how much Ross Chastain elevates this Nice Motorsports thing. And yeah, this season it has been all about how Carson Hocevar carries the team. That's what the narrative has been surrounding Nice Motorsports, and I agree with that because I mean right now Carson Hocevar, he is the only guy that is even close to being in the playoffs. Like Hocevar right now is solidly in the playoff, above the playoff cut line. And then everybody else, like Lawless Allen, Chris Wright, Dean Thompson, all three of those guys, they're just barely top 20 in points. Just barely top 20 points. I think Lawless Allen is like barely top 20 in points. I think that's the second best guy at Nice, looking at the numbers. But it's just terrible. Carson Hocevar is just carrying that team. And sure, Hocevar may be the guy who carries that team, but when Ross Chastain drops down to the trucks and he gets behind the wheel of a Nice truck, he just elevates that team, and it was really evident here. Like Carson Hocevar, the main reason why he was put in a position to win, it was because of Ross Chastain giving him that push in that restart. Like if any other guy was behind Hocevar, he wouldn't have gotten that push that he needed, and Ryan Preece would have probably pulled away and won the race. And speaking of Ryan Preece, the guy had a few choice words for Carson Hocevar, which I don't understand why people are all of a sudden hating Ryan Preece and turning him like a villain for stuff like this. I mean, yeah, he's mad, and I believe he was way too harsh on Carson Hocevar when he was saying like, "Oh, to you little kids, don't do that." I mean, I get it. The guy is mad. Like, what did you expect to happen? Of course, he's going to deliver like this interview because he's still heated. The guys at Fox, they are interviewing him right after he got out of his race car. So if they expected anything different, well, too bad. The guy still is not over it. Just like 10 minutes after it all transpired, of course he wasn't gonna be over it. And he has all the right to be mad. Like, I don't know why people are bringing up all of a sudden the Elliot Sadler incident back in Homestead of 2017. People all of a sudden are forgetting that it was Sadler who screwed himself over. And people are saying, "Oh, Preece should have pulled over. Elliot Sadler is fighting for the championship 4." Well, if you rewatch that Homestead 2017 race, you will know that Ryan Preece, he was driving the 18 car. He was fighting for the Owners' Championship as well. It's not like he was out there fighting for nothing. He was actually fighting for something too, just like Elliot Sadler. So I guess the Owners' Championship doesn't matter as much as the Drivers' Championship. But like, come on, guys. Every driver out there is fighting for something. Yeah, they may not be fighting for a championship, but they're fighting for a career result. Like, look at Cole Custer, that Homestead 2017 race. That was Cole Custer's first career win in Xfinity. What is he supposed to do? Pull over so William Byron and Elliot Sadler can battle it out 1-2 for the championship? What about St. Hornish Jr., the guy who actually won the Owners' Championship for the 22 car at Penske? Is he supposed to pull over so William Byron and Elliot Sadler can have their battle for the championship? No, you're supposed to race those guys. If you are faster than those guys, you are in your 100% your right to hold them off. And if you have the speed to race with those guys, then you have the right to race with those guys. Elliot Sadler, that move he made on Ryan Preece was out of desperation. He ended up costing himself the title. And now that Ryan Preece is calling out Carson Hocevar, people are all of a sudden shifting the narrative from the Ryan Preece. Now Ryan Preece is the bad guy, and he was always at fault for Elliot Sadler. Come on, guys, that's so stupid. And now, sure, and maybe Ryan Preece was a little too harsh on Carson Hocevar. He was comparing him to those like aggressive guys, and I mean, that's where most of the criticism of Ryan Preece comes from, because I agree, he was a little too harsh on that. And yes, Carson Hocevar is not that type of guy. Like the guys that Ryan Preece was associating Hocevar with. No, Hocevar is not the type of guy. He was just fighting hard, racing him hard because it's his first career win. Like, what would you do to score your first career win? And as you all know, I am of the opinion that your first career win is always the hardest one to get. Like, getting over that hump and scoring your first career win is always the hardest one. They always say the first win is always the sweetest, and I agree with that, which is why Carson Hocevar was racing hard. He was hungry. The guy was hungry, but at the same time, I understand Ryan Preece's anger. I think his choice words were a little bit too harsh towards Hocevar, but again, I'm gonna attribute that to the fact that he was still heated. It was still in the heat of the moment. It was like a good 10 minutes after he got been crashed out of a win, and he had just gotten out of his car too. So of course he was going to be mad. And that shot of Hocevar crying like after the race, that really. I'm not gonna lie, this guy really deserves to win a race. And not just a race like the Truck Series title, maybe. No, I don't know. He has really become like a dark horse to me for this Truck Series title. Like with all of these like sneaky good runs and with him getting better and better and better. Like, yeah, definitely. Speaking of both of them, like Hocevar ended up finishing 16th and Ryan Preece ended up finishing like 11th, just for, to give you an idea of what had happened. But yeah, back to Ross Chastain. All I'm going to say is Ross Chastain is a great teammate. You will want him on your team. Like, if this was Formula 1, like, I always find myself thinking about this, and the more I think about this, after Chastain won this race, some random thought just popped into my head where, with Chastain being such a great teammate and him, like, following team orders to a T and combined with him being a hard racer, Ross Chastain could be a great fit for Formula 1, honestly. Like, I can picture Ross Chastain like in some parallel universe becoming like becoming like a great American driver in Formula 1. Like, that would be really wild. But yeah, because Chastain is a hard racer and he is like a team first, a great teammate. I compare Chastain, funnily enough, I see Chastain, a lot of similarities between Ross Chastain and Sergio Perez, Checo in Formula 1. Like, of course, I'm not comparing them directly because, Checo is the better driver, is better in Formula 1 than Chastain is at NASCAR. But I'm going to say Chastain's driving style and Checo's driving style are very similar, and both of them, ever since Checo joined Red Bull, Chastain has been like a great he has been a great teammate to Max Verstappen, similar to how Ross Chastain has been a great teammate, whether it's with Nice Motorsports, Colleague, Chip Ganassi, Trackhouse. Chastain is just a great teammate, and he's going to put the team first. Of course, he will love to win, but if he cannot win, he's going to go for the team first approach, like he did at Atlanta last year with Kurt Busch. But anyways, man, this Truck Series race was pretty good, I gotta say. A really great appetizer for what we were gonna see for the rest of the weekend. Now for the Xfinity race, I'm not gonna lie, qualifying was really weird. Timmy Hill, the biggest surprise of, perhaps the biggest surprise in qualifying, he qualified 8th, and Stephen Parsons qualified 9th as well. Meanwhile, the RCR guys, Sheldon Creed, Austin Hill, they had poor qualifying efforts. They started mid-pack. The Joe Gibbs Racing guys, Brandon Jones, Trevor Bayne, Ty Gibbs, they had to start in the back because some, I believe they failed inspection, or I know Ty Gibbs crashed during practice. Brandon Jones, or Trevor Bayne, I think they started from the back just because they failed inspection. Riley Herbst, I don't know if he crashed or if he failed inspection, but he also had to go to the back. The guys who didn't go to the back, however, were the JR Motorsports cars. All 4 of them started in the top 7, with Sam Mayer scoring his first career pole. Then Allgaier started 2nd, Josh Berry 4th, and Noah Graxson 7th. Wait, that's not how it went. I don't really exactly remember who started where. Let's see if I can get it real quick again, because I know that Sam Mayer. Again, I know that Sam Mayer. I know he won the pole. So I just want to check real quick here with right here where he started. Let's see, starting lineup. Okay, Sam Mayer started on the pole, yeah. Oh, Justin Allgaier started 2nd. I don't know why he started 7th. Josh Berry 4th and Graxson 7th. Okay, so I was right. Okay, I was right. Yeah, Mayer, Allgaier, Berry, Graxson. Okay. Ryan Preece started 3rd, right there with right in the sandwich between the JR Motorsports guys. He was doing the triple header. I know, after finishing 11th in the truck race and being so close to winning, he had to go out with something to prove. And he definitely did. Of all the guys who ran, of all like the non-JR Motorsports cars, I believe Ryan Preece had the best car. Okay, stage 1, just like the truck race, it started really well. There was lots of passing for the lead. Sam Mayer, he started on the pole, but he got really quickly passed by Ryan Preece. Noah Graxson got in the action as well. The guys that started from the back, they started to march to the front steadily. There were also a few cautions for minor spins, which it goes to show you how really tough of a racetrack Charlotte is. Brandon Jones, Brandon Brown, Timmy Hill, all 3 of them spun out and brought out 3 separate cautions in stage 1. JR Motorsports was a dominant team early on. They ran 1, 2, 3, 4 at one point. And Sam Mayer, Josh Berry, and Noah Graxson all led laps in stage 1. And this stage ended under caution for a crash involving Jeffrey Earnhardt and Kyle Weatherman. And Josh Berry ended up winning stage 1. And then in stage 2, Justin Allgaier, the other JR Motorsports car, the only JR Motorsports guy who didn't lead a lap in stage 1, won the race of pit road, and he pretty much dominated stage 2. He ran away with it. Some things that happened during stage 2. Landon Castle went to the garage with a fuel pressure problem, and Noah Graxson fell back with an engine issue. He dropped the cylinder, but he still kept running, and he made a remarkable comeback in the end. I really thought that Graxson was dead after he dropped the cylinder. He even fell a lap down, I believe, in this race. Yeah, he fell a lap down in stage 2, but then in stage 3 he got the lucky dog, and then he started charging back to the top 10 like nothing happened. So, but yeah, with Graxson out of commission, Allgaier were leading, and then JR Motorsports was 1, 2, 3. There were also more cautions for small spins, like a spin from Jeff Burton, and then that brought out a caution, and on the ensuing restart after that caution, Justin Allgaier and Josh Berry, they had a really close call that I thought one of them or even both would have taken each other out. But like I said, Allgaier ends up winning stage 2, but he has a slow stop on pit road and he drops to 4th, and Josh Berry wins the race of pit road. Nick Sanchez, he got the jack stuck in his car. He would have to drive back to pit road to remove it. And stage 3, it featured more cautions. Like, this race was pretty similar to the race at Texas, where uh, where there were like a few cautions here and there in the first two stages for minor spins, but then in stage 3 the cautions that came out were for like bigger crashes, like stage 3 Riley Herbst blew a tire and hit the wall. That brought out a caution, and then another caution was for a big wreck where Austin Dillon, he also blew a tire. And this caution took out, and this accident took out a lot of the small teams. Like you got Stephen Parsons, who was driving for the 45, I believe. Yeah, he was driving the 45 for Alpha Prime. Ryan Sieg, Anthony Alfredo, who was driving for Our Motorsports. Joe Graff Jr., who was driving for SS Greenlight. And then of course you have Austin Dillon driving for the Big Machine Racing. Yeah. All 5 of them were involved. All 5 on small teams too involved. And eventually this actually ended up being the final caution of the race, because stage 3 ended on a long green flag run where basically nobody had anything for either Josh Berry or Justin Allgaier. Like the two of them were on a different zip code. This was similar to the truck race, to what we saw early in the truck race with Saint Smith and Ty Majeski back in the first half of the truck race. But this time they actually jumped out to a huge lead. Like we're talking about 10-second lead by the time green flag pit stops came around. Other things happened during stage 3. Noah Graxson, like I said, he overcame the engine issue. He was actually running on 7 cylinders, but he got himself back into the top 10 still, and he actually made some ground. Now, a guy who actually started falling back was AJ Allmendinger. His top 10 streak in jeopardy. He had a flat tire, and he dropped out of the top 10. Then on green flag pit stops, Austin Hill and Trevor Bayne get busted for a spin on pit road. Trevor Bayne, a guy who had worked his way back into the top 5, and he was really a guy to watch in stage 3, since now that he got the track position, he always looked really fast in the race, but we really lacked the track position. Once he finally got into the top 5, he was like, firmly holding his ground, but then after getting busted for spinning, like all that went out the window. During green flag pit stops, Allgaier ended up cycling back to the lead, but once again, Josh Berry sizes him up, and he tries to pass him twice. Like the first time, the lap car of Brett Moffitt got in the way, but then the second time's the charm. Berry made the pass with an awesome slide job. I believe he made the move in turn 1. Allgaier tries to cross over in turns 3 and 4, but Berry's car is faster, so he holds the lead. And then it's all about the lap cars now. At this point, there are only 10 cars on the lead lap. So it was a matter of who will maneuver better. At least that's what I thought. I think that lap cars would decide this race, since Josh Berry and Justin Allgaier, they were pretty much on cruise control. But then Allgaier hits the wall, and then he hits the wall again, and then he gets a flat tire, and he has to calm down pit road. So Josh Berry, at this point, Josh Berry had like a 17 second lead over the second place guy that was basically, it was a battle for second between Ty Gibbs and Ryan Preece at this point, and Ty Gibbs ended up winning that battle, so he ended up finishing second. Josh Berry just cruised to victory lane. Only 6 cars ended up on the lead lap. This was also hard to believe, but this was also the first win for JR Motorsports at Charlotte, so they finally managed to check another box off. And Josh Berry, this is his second win of the season as well. He becomes the 3rd multi-time winner this season, along with Ty Gibbs and Noah Graxson. And of course, JR Motorsports dominance continues. It's all about JR Motorsports and Xfinity. They have 4 wins in the last 5 races and 10 consecutive stage wins. And also, even though a lot of people are going to say, this was the winner. The leader won by 18 seconds, but this was a very enjoyable race. I'll argue that it was even more enjoyable than the Xfinity race. Sure, it was a shame the battle for the lead just didn't last until the end, but while it lasted, it was an amazing race. And speaking of JR Motorsports, with Josh Berry winning the race, also other notable drivers, his JR Motorsports teammates, Sam Mayer finished third, once again, a red hot streak. Like, this is like his 6th top 5 of the season, I believe, his 7th top 5, something like that. That's crazy. Noah Graxson in 4th after basically running on 7 cylinders. That's really impressive. And Allgaier, he finished 7th, a lap down, the first car a lap down actually. So yeah, he finished a lap down, but he still finished in the top 10 because that's just how much him and Josh Berry were curb stomping the field before Allgaier hit the wall and blew that tire. So anyways, other notable finishers: Ty Gibbs in 2nd, Ryan Preece in 5th, and Daniel Hemrick in 6th. Those 3 guys are the only non-JR Motorsports cars who finished on the lead lap. So that's honestly remarkable, especially for Daniel Hemrick, who was really like on the playoff bubble. That 6th place finish is gonna really help him a lot. Sheldon Creed in 8th, again with Anthony Alfredo crashing out, and a lot of like the playoff bubble guys outside of Daniel Hemrick, but a lot of the playoff bubble guys really have rough days. So Sheldon Creed actually got himself a lot of managed to make up some ground in the standings. He still has a long way to go though. He's almost like a full race worth of points below the cut line, so he still has a lot of ground to make up. Trevor Bayne, despite speeding on pit road, he still manages to finish to salvage a 9th place finish. And Myatt Snyder finishes 10th. Nice little top 10 for that Jordan Anderson team that has really been struggling a lot. Their Xfinity program and Myatt Snyder, they have really been struggling a lot. So and Myatt Snyder being off to a slow start this season, so really good to see him score a top 10. Other notable finishers: Ryan Ellis in 13th, another top 20 finish in an Alpha Prime car, by the way. This is the Tommy Joe Martin's team. Bailey Curry in 15th with the JD Motorsports car. And AJ Allmendinger, after getting that flat tire, he basically had to pit early, had to make like an unscheduled green flag pit stop early. And since that was his last set of tires, all he could possibly do was try and gain as much ground as he could by short pitting. But eventually, because he was off sequence, and there were no cautions, the guys that actually pitted had much fresher tires than him. He tried to hold to the top 10 about as much as he could, but with around like 20 or 25 to go, it just wasn't enough. He actually started dropping back, and he eventually ended up finishing all the way back in 19th. So his top 10 streak is officially over at 12 straight to start the season. So it still was a great run though. He's still the points leader. So, and we're going to and the Xfinity Series is going to Portland next week. So, he's a favorite to win. So who knows? Maybe he can start a new streak now. So anyways, also, this Charlotte race was the driver's only broadcast race that Fox does once a year. Brad Keselowski, Almirola, and Stenhouse were in the studio. Then Logano, Blaney, and Harvick were in the booth. And Reddick and Austin Cindric were as the pit reporters. And the drivers had a lot of fun everywhere. Like the guys in the studio, like Keselowski, Stenhouse, Almirola, they were just like talking about ice cream, how they were getting ice cream in the studio. and then Logano cracking his jokes as always. He actually cracked a couple of good jokes too, like when Jeffrey Earnhardt crashed. Jeffrey Earnhardt, his sponsor is Forever Lawn. Joe Logano said when his car came to a stop in the Charlotte AstroTurf, he said, "Oh, his forever lawn car will be forever stuck in the lawn," or something like that. That joke really sent me a little bit. But he also had a lot of like really bad takes, like the AstroTurf. We really need AstroTurf in every tracks. No, we don't. What we need is to raise the splitters of the cars so that the grass doesn't kill them on site. Also, there was also like, of course, the terrible take that pineapple is good on pizza. No, it's not. Pineapple does not belong on pizza, and that is a hill I am going to die on. I don't know why. Look, I like Logano a lot, but the pineapple on pizza is a terrible take. I'm sorry, it's not. Pineapple doesn't belong on pizza. And there was also this moment where they were talking. Logano and Blaney were talking about the battle for the lead, and they were just screaming at the cameraman, at the Fox, like at the race director, the cameraman, at the camera crew to like show the battle for the lead. But they weren't listening. They were like 30 seconds, show the battle for the lead. They were like, Logano and Blaney were like yelling at 30 seconds to show the battle for the lead. Eventually, you could hear Kevin Harvick like in off screen. You could listen to Kevin Harvick telling the cameraman, "Hey, show the battle for the lead." Like he was telling them directly to show the battle for the lead. So, it was really amazing. Like, yeah, the driver's broadcast was cringy, but it was the good type of cringe, because again, this is something that's gonna be like once a year, not something that you're gonna be dealing with like every single week. So once a year is fine. The drivers only broadcast, and also the fact that they actually pointed out some of the flaws in the Fox booth, and they actually actively tried to fix that. Like, giving more screen time to like not only the battle the battles for the lead, but also the battles like in the mid pack, especially. It was really great. But overall, for a race that only features 6 cars finishing on the lead lap and the winner finishing by half a lap over the entire field, this was a really fun race. And it really shows this race is the perfect sample that it doesn't matter the margin of victory. This is one of those races where you have to look past the margin of victory to actually appreciate it, because this race was really awesome. I don't care if if Josh Berry ended up winning by like half a lap over Ty Gibbs. It doesn't matter. The racing was absolutely awesome. And especially in that long green flag run, just watching 2 cars pull away, even if one of those didn't end up finishing where he probably deserved, but like I said, it was good while it lasted. It was a great race. That's where I'm getting at. But the Cup race, however, oh my goodness, that Cup race, I'm not gonna lie, that race had my jaw on the floor and then some. Entering this weekend, and judging by what we have seen all season long with tire wear and how sensitive Charlotte is to like temperature changes and how much tire wear matters and how much we have seen like tires getting destroyed or getting or just tires blowing up in hot tracks like Charlotte. And with the month of May being close to the summertime, and Charlotte being a very sensitive track to temperature changes, we were in for a really wild race. A lot of drivers were expecting like a lot of cautions to happen, and this is what we actually got. So anyways, starting off, Denny Hamlin on the pole, and Toyota as a whole, they look fast. They actually started 1, 2, 3, 4 with Hamlin on the pole, Kurt Busch second, then Christopher Bell third, and Kyle Busch in fourth. And then Bubba Wallace in seventh, and Martin Truex Jr. in 14th. So the 6 Toyotas, they were 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 7th and 14th. So a really great effort for Toyota, and they were definitely, the anticipation was that this race was going to be dominated by Toyota. This race was going to give, this race was expected to be like 2005, a long caution-filled race, like 5 to 6 hours. And when it came to testing the Gen 7 car, the average green flag run lasted no longer than 20 laps. And it really showed, again, looking at the tire wear. The tire wear was so bad, actually, throughout the race, that teams had to put up scuffed tires for parts of the race and hope that those tires held up until the next caution came out for the entirety of that green flag run, until the next caution came out, either be it by the end of the stage or the next green flag pit stop or something like that, because there were 13 sets, or rather, I don't know if there were like 12 or 13 sets for the entire race, something like that. But you had to start the race on scuffs, because those were the same tires that you used in practice and qualifying. You had to start the race on those same tires, on those same scuff tires. So you have like maybe 11, 12 sets of fresh sticker tires, and then one set of scuffs, which is the set of tires you're going to be starting the race with. Teams were actually anticipating, since the average lifespan of tires this season on intermediate tracks has been like 25 to 30 laps, teams made the math, and they realized that they were going to be like a set or two of tires short by the end of the race. So they started experimenting with using their set of scuff tires earlier. They tried to get as many laps on scuff tires as they could, because in order to have more fresher tires until the end. If anything, like having 2 sets of sticker tires until for the last 50 laps of the race, that was gonna be like a huge advantage, as it really showed. But anyways, this absolute madness of a race started out with a 3-car spin on lap 18 with Ryan Preece, Chris Buescher, Noah Graxson. That was the first incident, a 3-car spin. And in that state, and in those like first 18 laps, there were quite a lot of surprises. Kyle Busch, he led early on in the race. Hamlin started on the pole, and Kurt Busch, but they quickly moved back. Kyle Busch and Bubba Wallace, they actually took over the top 2 spots. Some of the Toyotas dropped back. Christopher Bell, Hamlin, and Kurt Busch especially, perhaps saving their stuff for the long run, because like I said, they started this race on scuff tires. Pit road was also a struggle. The list of drivers who got penalized was endless. Truex, Todd Gilliland, Ryan Blaney, Kyle Larson, Kyle Busch, Ricky Stenhouse, Alex Bowman. That's just a short list of drivers that actually got penalized, and you're gonna be hard pressed to find a driver who wasn't penalized or didn't suffer a setback in any way, shape, or form for the entire race. Like you will be like, some of these drivers were penalized more than once. I'm just giving you the names, and this is only for pit road penalties, because other drivers throughout the race, they had a lot of issues. Kevin Harvick, he had a steering issue that eventually got worse after he brought a caution for hitting the wall. Alex Bowman I believe had an equipment failure. I don't know, a problem with his equipment, pit equipment, something like that. Christopher Bell had a loose wheel and then eventually had a flat tire, like in stage 3 of the race. So crazy stuff. Another crazy stuff that happened during this race Bubba Wallace's pit crew was actually good. They came to play. They actually gained him spots on pit road. The first few stops were kind of shaky because Bubba lost like 4 spots on pit road, but the fact that they all lost only 4 spots on pit road and they didn't get any pit road penalty either, that was actually a sign of legit improvement. And to go from that to gaining like 2 to 3 spots on pit road, yeah, Bubba's pit crew, they actually came out to play. Then the second caution came out 20 laps later. Josh Bilicki's spin. Like I said, this is a trend we will follow. Like every 20 or so laps, a caution will come out. Also, I also expected Fox to go on commercials like every time a caution comes out because, you know, of course they do. It actually got so silly that I actually started like counting on that I actually started on Twitter. Follow me on Twitter, by the way. They actually started counting on. I actually started a counter for every time NASCAR came back from commercial under cautions, and the final counter was 6 cautions for commercials and 6 blown tires. Like blown tires that didn't like cause a caution. There can also be blown tires like a driver getting a flat tire, stuff like that. I also counted that. But as far as the TV showed, because I was very glued to the TV, like this race had me glued to the TV, like literally. Even when my family was watching like a Game 7 of Celtics Heat in the Eastern Conference Finals, I said no, I want to watch this race first. This is more important. This Coca-Cola 600 is amazing. And I believe there were 18 cautions in this race. Yeah, 6 of those happened during commercials. And we also had 6 blown tires. So, yeah. As for the blown tires, I may have missed a few. But those were the ones that were actually shown. Because again, like I said, you will be hard-pressed to find a single driver who didn't face any sort of adversity throughout this race. Because this race was literally, you weren't racing the other guys. You weren't racing the racetrack. You were racing against your own car. You were fighting against your own car. Whoever survived ended up winning. Whoever did the best job of surviving ended up winning. Especially towards the end where things got really wild. But the racing was amazing. I just cannot say enough about how this Gen 7 car looks on intermediate tracks. Plenty of side-by-side action. Suarez and Bubba Wallace, they just had amazing restarts. They challenged Kyle Busch for the lead on separate occasions in Stage 1. Suarez's pass for the lead was actually amazing. People are going to say that he tried to clear Kyle Busch, but honestly, he tried to push the issue when he shouldn't have, and he just lost it on his own. Like, Suarez just had the faster car anyways. And with Kyle Busch spinning out of the lead, Suarez and Bubba were now running 1-2. Or at least until Bubba came down pit road. But Suarez held on to the lead pretty well. He got almost a 3-second lead on, I believe, Chase Elliott was the second place car. Before another caution came out. But yeah, this race was full of comers and goers with all these incidents, cautions, strategies, race of pit road, track position. There were a lot of comers and goers. And then the fourth caution came out. It was the first blown tire of the race, and that was Corey LaJoie. And his wreck was eerily similar to the wreck that he suffered in practice as well, where he did a 180-degree spin, and then he smacked the wall hard coming off of turn 2 on the driver's side. He suffered that same wreck in practice and that same wreck during the race. Now, for reference, last year's race had four cautions in total. That was last year's race with the Gen 6. With these Gen 7 cars, we already had 4 cautions in less than 100 miles. We haven't even reached 100 miles by the time the fourth caution came out. That's just how crazy this race was. So anyways, like I said, the revolving door of lead changes gives Chase Elliott the lead, and he leads at the 100-mile mark. And surprise, surprise, there wasn't a caution at the end of stage 1. This stage ended on a long green flag run, and Chase Elliott held on to win. Suarez fell back. I believe he had a tire going down. That's probably the side effect of putting, scuffed tires and mixing it up with the leaders up front. Many people are gonna say that was a terrible mistake on Suarez's part, but honestly, like I said earlier, you want to use your scuffed tires early. You want to use your set of scuffed tires early in order to have fresh rubber towards the end. And the fact that Suarez managed to hold on, not only to bring the car back in one piece at the end of stage 1, but also not lose a lap in the process or not have a blown tire or flat, that really set him up for the rest of the race. And let me tell you, like I said, Suarez had an amazing race. Like, I don't know, between this and Bristol Dirt, I don't know, because in Bristol Dirt, he actually finished the race. In spoiler alert, Suarez did not finish this race. He actually crashed out, but we're going to get into that crash later. But yeah, I believe that from a pure performance standpoint, I believe, I wouldn't call you crazy if you told me that this was the best race of Suarez's career, of Suarez's Cup Series career thus far. So anyways, Chase Elliott wins the race off pit road. But then in stage 2, speaking of trackhouse racing, Ross Chastain gets to the lead. And then 20 laps into the run, another caution comes out. Bubba Wallace gets loose. He was running 4th place at the time. He spun out, and then he goes right on pit road. When he spins out and he gets it back going, he just puts it on pit road and he just parks it next to his pit stop. It's okay. Bubba Wallace was just doing a drive-through. He was going through the McDonald's drive-through to pick up his order. He'll be fine. So then, on the restart, Chase Elliott wins the race off pit road, and he leads at the 200-mile mark. And then, the big story of this race was Kyle Larson. Because in the first 2 stages alone, Larson had to go through hell on earth. Basically, his entire weekend was really eventful. He crashed in practice. In stage 2, by the time stage 2 was halfway done, he already had 2 speeding penalties. He also hit the wall a couple times because, he loves running that outside lane, that Larson lane. And then his car caught fire during a pit stop. They were fueling the car. They were fueling the car. His car caught fire, and he had to come back down pit road so his team could finish refueling the car and also put out the fire, because he was actually driving around with a small fire on closer to where the hole where you put the fuel. Yeah, right there. That's just how crazy. And this wasn't even halfway. This isn't even halfway. Like, Kyle Larson, it just went so bad that Kyle Larson, he was saying to his team that, yeah, this is the worst race of his career. The worst race of his career he's run. Also, there was also like this TED talk that his spotter had planned. Because his night just went from bad to worse, it felt like. But anyways, we had another blown tire. Austin Cindric crashed out because of it. That was the second blown tire of this race. Then Ryan Blaney and Kyle Larson stay out, to save an extra set of tires for later, similar to what Daniel Suarez did. But no, actually Suarez actually put on scuffs. Blaney and Larson, what they actually did was stay out. They didn't use their set of scuffs. They decided to stay out on that set of tires that they had. because you want to either stay out or use as many sets of scuff tires as possible, like I said, so you can have as many fresh tires as possible for the final leg of the race. And because of that, and because tires matter a lot at Charlotte, Chase Elliott, he easily retook the lead. Then immediately, as if by sheer coincidence, it feels like, on the same lap, Ryan Blaney, this was like 15 to 20 laps into the run, but Ryan Blaney, on the same lap, Ryan Blaney gets loose and hits the wall in turn 1, and then Larson spins off of turn 4, all on the same lap, like I said. So, lesson learned, don't stay out on all tires. Even if you have to put on a set of scuffs like Daniel Suarez did, but don't stay out on all tires. Like, scuff tires are better than all tires. So, lesson learned for both Blaney and Larson, I guess. So anyways, in the restart, Ross Chastain leads, and Daniel Suarez gets back in second, but then Chase Elliott, he tries to break the 1-2 Trackhouse by passing Suarez, but he hits the wall and he spins out, bringing out another caution. Chase Elliott, he hit the wall so badly that he bent the right rear toe link, which is, the most vulnerable, which, if you didn't know, the right rear toe link is like not really the right rear toe link, because there's a right rear and a left rear toe link, but the toe link is the most vulnerable part of this Gen 7 car, if you guys didn't know. So Chase Elliott, he hit the wall. It wasn't such a hard hit on the wall. The damage on the outside, it was cosmetic, but with these Gen 7 cars, these cars are great on the outside. They are durable on the outside, but they are very sensitive on the inside. And a perfect example of how sensitive these cars are on the inside is the toe link. Like I said, the toe link on Elliott's right rear tire was so damaged that he had to make repairs and they had to replace the part. However, because of the DVP and because his team only had 6 minutes to repair the damage, because the toe link counts as crash damage, if you didn't know, the team couldn't get it repaired in time, and Chase Elliott eventually had to go to the garage because they couldn't replace the part in time because of that dumb DVP. And once again, I'm not a big fan of damaged vehicle policy, because on the surface it's like the cars who don't meet minimum speed and aren't just like rolling chicanes on the track, you get rid of those. But the damaged vehicle policy, on the other hand, is just so strict that cars that could run well, like Chase Elliott and Bubba Wallace early on, and Bubba Wallace later on, because Bubba Wallace got screwed in a more egregious way by the DVP. So if it wasn't for the DVP, I'm pretty sure that Chase Elliott and Bubba Wallace would have been fighting would have been fighting up there at the very end. Of course, granted that they don't get involved in any more troubles, but I'm pretty sure that Chase Elliott and Bubba Wallace, their cars were in pretty raceable condition to where I don't consider the DVP to being a big deal to them. Like, they shouldn't have DNF because of the DVP, because their cars were in pretty raceable condition. They were more than able to keep up with the leaders. So that was honestly really stupid, the way that Elliott and Bubba's days, they ended. But anyways, less than 15 laps into the stage, strategy came into play. Some pitted, some stayed out. Chastain and Suarez were among those who stayed out. Blaney, he pitted for 4 fresh tires. I believe William Byron had pitted 2 for fresh tires. But none of that mattered, because on the restart, the big one happened. Yeah, the big one. That's just how crazy this race was, right? Ryan Blaney got loose. He spun out. He collected Kurt Busch, Keselowski, Denny Hamlin got a piece of it. Harrison Burton, Noah Graxson, Michael McDowell, Todd Gilliland, William Byron. A few of those guys, like Kurt Busch, Byron, and Keselowski, they actually got taken out of the race. And others, like Bubba Wallace, got screwed over by the DVP. And you know, the way Bubba Wallace got screwed over by the DVP was so stupid. Because, yeah, the DVP, as stupid as it is, it's still a rule. And teams have to work under that rule, no matter how stupid it is. In the case of Bubba Wallace, his team didn't know. They didn't know that they were working under DVP, and they just took their sweet time trying to get Bubba back up to speed. However, because this was a lengthy caution, and because the rule of the DVP states that you gotta be you gotta meet minimum race speed. Because of that, and because of the fact that this was a very lengthy caution, and also due to the fact that the 23 team, like I said, they took their sweet time because they didn't know they were under DVP. Because of all of those factors, Bubba Wallace ended up getting a DNF due to the DVP. He ended up getting screwed over. Like I said, the DVP is a stupid rule, but what's even more stupid is your team not knowing that they are under the DVP, and instead of hurrying to repair the car, whatever damage they have on that car, because like I said, that 23 car was in pretty raceable condition when it pulled into the garage. Because yes, he was involved in that accident. All he got was a little bit of a tap in the back. But outside of that, like, the car was in raceable condition. It was a very fast car. It could have finished easily top 5, even competed for the win. So, again, such a shame that Bubba's night had to end like that because of a dumb technicality. 50% of that had to do with the DVP, and the other 50% had to do with the fact that his team had no idea what they were doing. Yeah, his pit crew came to play, sure, but when it came to the DVP, they didn't know that they were under that clock, and they took their sweet little time, and by the time they were back on track, like, the clock had expired and it was over for them. Their night was over. That was just stupid. But anyways, with several of the big dogs out now, this race officially became a race of attrition, with only 13 cars incident-free in the first half of this race. That was absolutely wild. This has officially become a race of attrition. So on the restart, Daniel Suarez takes the lead from Ross Chastain. Eric Jones also shows up into the picture, another new face. He tries to take second as well, but to no avail, and stage 2 goes to Suarez, and Trackhouse gets the 1-2 at the 300-mile mark. So anyways, on the pit stops, Joe Logano and the Toyotas, some of the Toyotas stay out, everyone else pits. And on the restart, Chastain and Suarez, they take advantage of the fresh rubber, and they quickly make their way back to 1-2. Back to first and second. Then another caution comes out. Kevin Harvick, he has a very similar issue to what happened with Ryan Blaney, where he hits the wall. In the case of Kevin Harvick, since he had already been suffering, struggling with steering issues, the fact that he hit the wall, and he hit the wall pretty hard too, that messed up the steering even further. So once again, Harvick was going to have to face his own adversity in this race. Now, what really perplexed me a little bit was, why did NASCAR throw the caution for Harvick when they didn't throw it for Ryan Blaney? But then again, just a little bit of NASCAR and their inconsistencies. So on the restart, on that caution, Suarez actually pitted for fresh tires, something which I didn't quite understand, because first of all, he was the only one who pitted for fresh tires in that caution. And also, he got a top 5 car anyway, so unless he felt a vibration or felt like he had a tire going down. There was no sense in pitting for fresh tires. But, you know, at this point it became pretty clear the Trackhouse cars are the class of the field. And Suarez on fresh tires on that restart, he managed to chase down Chastain for the lead. And I mean, yeah, his gamble did work. He managed to get the lead, but it's not like he was struggling in this race to begin with. Like, he was running second before he pitted for fresh tires. Like, I'm pretty sure Suarez, he could have gotten himself to the lead. He could have gotten the lead, or at the very least settled into second, without using that extra set of tires. So, because now I just feel like that was a set of tires that he wasted for nothing. But anyways, I mean, he got his way to the lead. Graxson spun out, so that brought out another caution. And this caution happened like a few laps. I don't know if it was a lap later, but it happened a few laps after Suarez had passed Chastain for the lead. So I guess his gamble worked out for him. But I still believe that Suarez saving out the set of tires would have worked. So anyways, speaking of pit stops, Suarez had a slow pit stop this time, so Chastain retook the lead and won the race of pit road. And on the restart, Chase Briscoe and Tyler Reddick show up into the picture. Both of them try to challenge Chastain, but to no avail. Chastain manages to hold them off to lead at the 400-mile mark. Christopher Bell blows a tire, no caution. This is, I believe, was like the third blown tire of the race. I don't know. I had lost count by that point. I know that there was, like I said, I know that there were like 6 blown tires in this race. Either like blown tires or like flat tires that you had to pit on because of you had a flat. I counted 6, but again, there could have been more. Speaking of Kyle Larson, he charges with third after a really eventful race. By this point, Kyle Larson's night had gone from bad to worse because a crew member had actually gotten injured during one of the pit stops too. So yeah, this was around the time where Larson's spotter, like I said, he gave it like that little TED talk of, look man, this is what has been going on while you have been battling through hell on the track. We also had our own troubles and blah blah blah. Just keep doing your stuff. And Larson said, yeah, I appreciate it. Oh man, like Larson's race, listening to Larson's radio for the entirety of the Coke 600, that race was that was an absolute trip, to say the least. And the fact that Larson found his way into the top 3, let alone competing for the win at this point, it was really a testament to not only the fact that he's the defending champion, but also the resilience of that 5 team. It was amazing. Speaking of flat tires, Kyle Busch also had a flat tire. After prior contact with Eric Almirola, he tried to nurse it until the end of the stage, but then he came down pit road after he almost spun. Fortunately, there was no caution. Also, Justin Haley, he had an engine issue. By the end of stage 3, the engine got worse, and then he dropped the cylinder, and that was it for him. So stage 3 ends with the longest green flag run of the race so far. I believe it was like 40 laps. But yeah, Chastain ended up winning stage 3. And then Tyler Reddick wins the race of pit road over Ross Chastain. Daniel Suarez has another slow pit stop. And then in the restart, Tyler Reddick gets the lead, and Chastain and Larson settle behind him in second and third. Cole Custer also shows up into the picture. Then Chastain retakes the lead as Tyler Reddick starts like reporting a vibration, and Chastain leads at the 500-mile mark. Like at this point, The Trackhouse cars, like I said, they were like the class of the field. They were the team to beat for most of the race. But especially Chastain, he was the guy who led I believe he led 140 laps. Yeah, he was the guy who led the most laps. So if you're by that metric alone, you should know that he was like the car to beat. Not really the car to beat, because this race, it had a lot of comers and goers, but Chastain was the guy that spent the most time up front, and he was the one who was putting the best race together of everyone, at least until that crash at the end happened, which we're gonna get into later. But anyways, some interesting stuff that happened by this point in this green flag run. Erik Jones got squeezed into the wall by Aric Almirola. No caution came out. It looked like Almirola wasn't clear. He just drove like Erik Jones wasn't there. He just flat out put him into the wall. Like, come on, Aric Almirola, you weren't clear. But anyways, Tyler Reddick's tire, it eventually fell apart. He was running second by that point, and a caution came out for debris. I believe it was because of Tyler Reddick's tire. So a caution came out for debris. That was another blown tire, of course. And Ross Chastain and Kyle Larson, they restarted 1-2. Suarez has once again another slow stop. He drops back to 7th. The guy who ended up winning here was Kyle Busch. Got his way back in the top 10 after getting 6 spots on pit road. And on this restart, we have our what the fuck moment of the race. Daniel Suarez, he got an amazing restart. He made his way back to 4th after passing Chase Briscoe. But coming off of turn 4, he tried to get himself in front of Briscoe. Maybe his spotter told him he was clear, but he wasn't. And because of that, he spins off of Chase Briscoe. Todd Gilliland just barely, but he actually gets a big piece of Suarez. Suarez goes spinning like a top. And then Chris Buescher, who had been spun out by somebody else trying to avoid the incident. Chris Buescher gets spun out. He hits Suarez. And then both of them go into both of them go spinning out of control. Buescher gets actually into the AstroTurf, spinning into the AstroTurf, and because of the damage he had received on the, I believe it was the right front, yeah. Because when Chris Buescher spun, he hit Daniel Suarez on the side. So when Buescher spins out, the right front tire is damaged. And what that right front tire does is it digs into the AstroTurf, and the moment that tire digs into the AstroTurf, Chris Buescher's car, it just immediately shoots up into the air and flips like 5 or 6 times. Like, that flip came out of nowhere. That flip like literally woke me up, because I was like half asleep by that point. Like, it was a few hours before midnight. Like, it was like 10:30 p.m. by that point. I'm usually like a night owl person, but that specific race, that specific night, like I have been watching I missed the F1 Grand Prix, and I have been watching the Indy 500, the Coke 600, so I was a little bit tired, but that woke me up. That Chris Buescher flip woke me up because it came out of freaking nowhere. He flipped in the turf. That was absolutely a wild ride. The race was red flag. The only thing that was missing from this race was a red flag. But yeah, absolutely. That was just absolutely wild. I had no words. That was one of the more like what the fuck moments of this season so far. Like Chris Buescher flipping out of nowhere. But anyways, on this race, race was red flag, and after it was restarted, Kyle Larson got to the lead. Chastain dropped to third as Chase Briscoe made his way up to second. Larson opens up a 1.5 second lead, but then with 15-20 laps to go in the race, Briscoe starts catching up to him, and then everyone starts blowing up their tires. Christopher Bell has a flat tire. Almirola almost spins out too because of a flat tire. No caution comes out for either of these incidents. So NASCAR allows it to go green, and because of that, this allows Chase Briscoe to set up his race-winning move on Kyle Larson. Not once, but twice. The first time Briscoe tried to make the slide job on Larson, Larson just literally responded on the outside, and he just basically cleared himself. Like Briscoe had to let Larson pass on the outside because they were just gonna wreck each other. With the momentum Larson had on the outside, they were just gonna wreck each other. If Briscoe didn't get out of the way, that was gonna be a crash. So Kyle Larson is a freaking psychopath, just clearing himself of a Chase Briscoe slide job like that. So Briscoe tries to go for it again, and in a very similar way to what he did with Tyler Reddick in the Bristol Dirt Race. He drives it into the corner deep. This was in turn 1, and this is with like 2-3 laps to go. He goes for it he drives into the corner deep, and then he spins out. Similar to what happened on Bristol Dirt. He spins out, and this time he just barely avoids collecting Larson. Larson just barely escapes that. So it's just a single car spin. Briscoe has some damage on the back end, but this time, that brings out a caution, and it leads into overtime. And because of that, and because this has been like a fairly long green flag run, this ends up going to pit road. And there's some strategy calls here. Like everybody pits. This is the money stop. But Kyle Larson and Ross Chastain, because they have the track position, they decide to gamble, and they take 2 tires. Kyle Larson officially leads the 600-mile mark, sure, but the race is not over yet. And in overtime, this race just turned upside down on its head. One of the wildest restarts ever just happened. Like literally. Kyle Larson, he clears everyone. He gets smooth sailing on the backstretch. But right behind him, Ross Chastain and Joe Logano. Logano, I believe he was one of those guys that took 2 tires as well. Yeah, so the top 3, they took 2 tires. But then on the backstretch, Austin Dillon, who took 4 tires, he gets a huge run on Ross Chastain and Joe Logano, and he rides that momentum into turn 3, and he sends it into the corner deep, and he goes side by side with Larson, and he makes it side by side with Larson in turn 4. Larson then tries to side draft off of him on the outside. He tries to side draft him into the outside, but Austin Dillon is just pushing him. He tries to push him into the outside. So Larson tries to go to the outside, but it's too late because Ross Chastain has already made it to his outside. And even crazier, Denny Hamlin has made it into Austin Dillon's inside. So they are 4 wide coming up of turn 4. And because it's way too tight, of course, Kyle Larson and Austin Dillon, they crash. They tangle. Dillon hits the wall hard. He collects Chastain. Then Chastain collects Logano. Larson spins out as well. Cole Custer is in it as well. It's just amazing. I believe Truex had some damage there as well. Stenhouse also had damage there as well, but basically the track was just too narrow, and that was just that race just turned over on its head. That was just amazingly crazy. And when the smoke had settled, Denny Hamlin, who had made his 4-wide move on the inside, he came out of it all with the lead. Ross Chastain was scored in second now. Ross Chastain, because the white flag didn't come out. The caution came out before they took the white, so they had to go to double overtime. Ross Chastain, he was in second with an injured race car. They didn't pit. That team didn't pit. They decided to risk it all and gamble, which I don't know why Chastain stayed out. That guy was out of... That car was... I don't think... No, that car was raceable because Chastain still managed to finish on the lead lap, but he finished all the way back in 15th after restarting second in the final restart. So it's pretty clear that he stayed out of the way. He just wanted to... I think he just wanted to make it a matter of pride to finish this race on the lead lap, which, if that's the case, then I commend him for that. Even if I don't understand the logic behind it, but anyways, Chastain stays out with damage. Denny Hamlin is first. Kyle Busch and Kevin Harvick, who made two of the most amazing wreck avoidances. I don't know how Kyle Busch and Kevin Harvick got through that. Kyle Busch is third after all of that. Kevin Harvick is in fourth. And in the double overtime restart, Kyle Busch and Hamlin are side by side because, Chastain, he stays out with damage. He has a slow restart. He basically holds up the entire outside lane. Kyle Busch gives Hamlin a push because he was restarting on the inside of Hamlin. But then he immediately goes to his outside, because no team orders. Kyle Busch is going to try and win the race by himself. Kyle Busch gets a good run on the outside, and he manages to lead the final lap by a nose over Hamlin. But then Hamlin comes back on the inside, and he basically does the same move. Hamlin basically pulls the same move that Suarez did on Kyle Busch, earlier in the race in stage 1. The move that caused Kyle Busch to spin out. And Kyle Busch, he had to back out the throttle because he didn't want to spin out. He wouldn't do the same mistake twice. Yeah, they're going for the win, but even if they're going for the win, he's not gonna push the issue. Because even if he doesn't win, that was gonna be a good points day because a lot of the other front runners, they had just crashed out. So Kyle Busch just let it slide, and then Hamlin just pulled away, and Kyle Busch, he got close to him in the end, but he just could not build enough momentum to make a pass on Hamlin. Maybe if he had one more lap, he could have maybe done something, but by that point it was just too late. Hamlin ends up winning the race. He pulls away and wins. And this is actually Denny Hamlin's first win at Charlotte, because I remember back in 2017, all the talk was about Kyle Busch hasn't won at Charlotte. That many people have forgotten that, Denny Hamlin, he hasn't won at Charlotte either. And after Kyle Busch won the Coca-Cola 600 in 2018, people still weren't mentioning Hamlin about Charlotte. I thought for a fact that I really thought that Hamlin had won at least one race at Charlotte because he has had so many good runs at this track. But then once I did my research, I realized that no, this is actually for real. This is actually Hamlin's first win at Charlotte, and not only that, by extension, this is also his first Coca-Cola 600 win. Hamlin, he has 3 Daytona 500 wins, 3 Southern 500 wins. The only crown jewel race that was missing in his resume was the Coca-Cola 600, and he finally won that. And not only Denny Hamlin wins the Coca-Cola 600, but FedEx, his sponsor, actually gets redemption from the Coca-Cola 600 that they lost back in 2005. And 2005 is a very similar race, or rather was a very similar race to 2022, to this year's version of the 600. It was a very fun race. It was very chaotic, lots of passing, lots of comers and goers, a lot of guys who crashed out of the race as well. So again, this race was basically 2005 all over again, and the fact that FedEx ended up winning this race as redemption for the one that got away back then, that really made for a great story. So other notable finishers in this race were Kevin Harvick in third, overcoming a steering issue. Basically, if you look at the top 10 in this race, every single driver had to overcome adversity in some way, in some capacity. Like you see, Kyle Busch in second. We're talking about Kyle Larson's day a lot, like the hell that Kyle Larson had to go through. But what about Kyle Busch? Kyle Busch had to go through his own stuff as well, because after he spun out early on in stage 1 after trying to race Daniel Suarez for the lead, he was stuck in mid-pack. And he was also, for parts of the race, he was trapped a lap down twice, but I wasn't worried about it that much, because with the insane amount of cautions, I knew he was going to get the lucky dog eventually, and he got the lucky dog. Like a caution or two later, he was back on the lead lap and he was turning his way to the front again. But yeah, like Kyle Busch said, he wasn't in position. He wasn't outside of that, the first few laps in stage 1. He wasn't in position to win this race. He wasn't. He just wasn't. The fact that he finished second, that should be enough of a satisfaction. Maybe that's why he pulled out. That's what she said. Pause. Whatever. Maybe that's why he let off the throttle on that last lap after Denny Hamlin had completed the pass on him. Maybe that's why. Maybe he didn't want to push the issue and do the same mistake that Suarez did. Maybe he was just going to settle for second, because it was a very long race, so it was all about survival. And Kyle Busch didn't win this race, but him surviving with a second place finish is just as great, especially since he had to go through his own hell. Kevin Harvick finished third. He had to go through his own adversity as well with the steering issue. His steering was a little locked to the left, and there was nothing his team could do about it. So he had to drive it. So he had to drive with his steering slightly to the left all the entire second half of the race. It feels like. Chase Briscoe in fourth. He managed to rebound after that spin that could have possibly cost him a good finish, but because there were only so few cars on the lead lap, like only 15 cars on the lead lap, Briscoe managed to finish fourth. Christopher Bell, he suffered 2 flat tires and in the second half of the race, and he went a lap down on both occasions, and he still managed to come back and finish fifth. That's crazy. Tyler Reddick in sixth. He also had a flat tire in the second half of the race. Ricky Stenhouse in seventh. Now, Stenhouse didn't go through any particular adversity, but the fact that this is JTG Doherty's Racing's 4th straight top 10. This is the longest streak of top 10s in team history for that 47 team, for JTG Doherty Racing too. Now, yeah, Stenhouse didn't have to go through any particular adversity, but 4 straight top 10s after what a disaster season it has been, he has momentum. Stenhouse has momentum, and if he keeps this up, don't be surprised if that 47 team is in the running for like a playoff spot, in the end. Because I believe I don't know if he can point his way into the playoffs, because the more I think about it, the more I think there is a chance that there are 16 different winners in the playoffs. But with all of this momentum that he has, there is a chance that he can actually snooker a win away from the competition on a non-super speedway too, because he's looked pretty good. Michael McDowell finished 8th. Quiet. A quiet outing for him. He actually qualified well in this race too. I believe this was one of, if not his best qualifying effort in intermediate. I don't know, because I didn't pay attention much to Michael McDowell. I believe he was running like in around 20th place for most of the race after starting like in the top 10 or close to it. But yeah, he finished 8th, especially after his teammate Todd Gilliland had to go for a lot of, he got to go through a lot of, he got his issues, getting caught up with a wreck with Daniel Suarez there. I don't even know if his teammate finished the race, but I know McDowell brought that car in one piece because he wasn't involved in any incidents. Speaking of a guy that was involved in a lot of incidents, Kyle Larson, even after getting involved in that last overtime crash, him spitting out, he still managed to finish 9th. He still managed to salvage a 9th place finish after everything, after all the hell that he had to go through. He finished 9th, and he was within a lap and a half of winning that race. Who knows, if Briscoe didn't spin, who knows what was going to happen? Maybe he wins the race, maybe he finishes second to Briscoe, maybe he crashes out and Chastain wins, who knows? But Kyle Larson, I'm going to say it right now, he is the driver of the day to me. Because he had to go through hell, just because of the absolute hell that he had to go through. Just to even finish in the top 10. The fact that he finished this race, on the lead lap, and he completed every single lap, plus overtime, that's just amazing. And Alex Bowman 10th, I mean, he was the worst Hendrick car in my opinion, because I don't know if it was the worst Hendrick car, because I mean that title could easily go to Larson, but Larson then in the second half he picked it up. But Alex Bowman, he really had a really low-key race so far, but in the end he managed to keep his car in one piece and finish 10th. I know he got his issues, but I don't know. Maybe he was one of those guys that didn't have like a lot of issues. Maybe. Yeah, I think that was. Harrison Burton 11th, the highest finishing rookie. And he also had his own issues. I believe he was involved in the big one in stage 2 that took out Ryan Blaney and William Barron and the other guys. Yeah, he was involved in that. He spun out, he got some damage. He came back from that to finish 11th. Ty Dillon in 13th. That's about it. Ty Dillon 13th, and I'm gonna mention him because he was the cleanest car. I believe he was one of the cleanest cars out there. He brought that car in one piece. Ty Dillon brought his car in one piece on the lead lap. That's just crazy. And then of course Ross Chastain, like I said, he finishes 15th on a banged up race car. After restarting second because he just couldn't keep it going. Like I said, I think his team just made a matter of pride to finish the race. They didn't want to DNF like Suarez did. If that's the case, then I respect them for that. Chastain is a real warrior there. But yeah, that's about it. My final verdict of this race, the Coca-Cola 600 was awesome. And 1.5 mile racing is officially must-watch TV. Like, if you guys had any doubts about, Las Vegas and Kansas and maybe how the racing will go at Charlotte, yeah, the racing is great. 1.5 mile racing is back. It's must-watch TV at basically every single 1.5 mile track, not named Texas, because at this point I'm convinced there's no saving this track. After going from the All-Star race at Texas to this at Charlotte, yeah, I'm really convinced that Texas I'm really convinced that Texas, there's no coming back. Like, Texas is beyond saving at this point. But yeah, as for the letter review, I mean, I'm gonna give this race an A+. Seriously. All things considered, I'm gonna give this race an A+. Yeah, the cautions were. Yeah, there was a high amount of cautions. Yeah, the tires are still an issue in the Gen 7 car. Yeah, the damaged vehicle policy sucks. Sure. However, this race was fun. When the cars raced, actually, the race was fun. There was a lot of strategy, a lot of comers and goers. You know, this was like the Gen 4 days, like the good old Gen 4 days of 1.5 mile tracks. Even if there was a high caution count, it doesn't matter. This race really had a mid-2000s feel to it, and it was just awesome. Now, of course, with that being said, I've seen people give out their take that maybe we should abandon the Charlotte Roval and that we should be doing a second race at the Charlotte Oval. And you know, while I don't disagree with the idea, while I wouldn't frown at the idea, because, you know, the racing at Charlotte was awesome. Racing at Charlotte is awesome. The oval layout is awesome. At the same time, the Charlotte Roval is not a bad race. And now, yeah, I know, I am of the opinion, this is gonna sound crazy, because I am of the opinion that the Charlotte Roval is overrated, a little bit overrated. Like most of the hype surrounding the Charlotte Roval race, like most of the allure, is because it's always like a playoff cutoff race, and also the moments behind it, like Chase Elliott's comeback win in 2019 from basically missing the first corner, to basically coming back for the win. The first ever race at the Roval in 2018 with Truex and Jimmy Johnson crashing out and Blaney winning. Then there's also last year the whole drama between Kevin Harvick and Chase Elliott. Like, the Charlotte Roval has had a lot of iconic moments. Like, yeah, the Charlotte Roval, there's no denying that it's had a lot of iconic moments, but and the racing product is great. Like, for a road course, the racing product is great, and he has given us a lot of, like, you know, playoff battles to follow and stuff like that. And we still need to know how the next gen cars are going to race at the Charlotte Roval. With that being said, yes, well, I would love to see the Gen 7 cars. Like, while I would love to see NASCAR return to, like, running the Charlotte, the oval layout, like, twice a year, at the same time, I understand that NASCAR has really invested a lot in this, like, Roval project. And again, like I said, the Roval is not a bad racetrack. It's just not better than the oval. That, and the fact that I'm going to reserve my opinion for the Roval until we actually see the Gen 7 cars race there, because we haven't seen them race, like, at a true points race at the Roval. Like, we have seen a lot of testing sessions at both the Charlotte Oval and the Roval layout, at both layouts, and we have seen the results of that. But I want to see action. But I want to see how the Charlotte Roval, how the Gen 7 cars race at the Charlotte Roval before comparing it with the Charlotte, with the oval, like the 1.5 mile oval layout. Yes, the oval track is awesome, but just because of that, I'm not gonna say that we should immediately abandon the Roval, because the Roval, yes, I think it's a bit overrated, but it's still a great track. It's still a hit come playoff time. It's still the playoff cutoff race, and NASCAR has done it right with the Charlotte Roval. Like, it may be, like I said, it may be overrated, but even an overrated track can produce some good storylines, like the Charlotte Roval. So again, like I said, I'm not gonna I'm not jumping immediately. I'm not gonna immediately jump on the bandwagon of we should get rid of the Charlotte Roval and have 2 Charlotte races in the oval proper. But man, the racing was awesome. Like these Gen 7 cars on Charlotte were awesome, and if we went back to the oval layout, if we abandoned the Roval, I wouldn't be mad. I just think it's not gonna happen. I just think it's not gonna happen because NASCAR has invested a lot in that, but and also I don't think the Roval is a bad track either, but man, if this Coke 600 is not a sign of things to come, I don't know what is, man. Again, man, I've been nearly 2 hours recording this. Nearly 2 hours recording this. Like this Coca-Cola 600 has given me a lot to talk about, and a lot of positives too. Like it's just amazing. So, anyways, I am done. What a weekend.